I'd like to follow up on a few different points that I've heard. There's a strong emphasis, I gather, on a need for accountability beyond the bottom 5 to 10%, which we certainly share. And at the same time, politically, there's a realization that many in the Congress and the administration seem to want to focus any kind of strong interventions on the bottom performing schools. So the question is, would you all consider support an accountability focus that I think would be meaningful, but a lesser form of accountability that would have the federal government guide the other Title I funded schools in the direction of the school improvement strategies that are known to be effective for successful school turnarounds? And these are things that I think one of your spokesmen, alluded to, things like the leadership component, distributed leadership, the instructional strategies and peer collaboration and mentoring, the challenging curriculum, the school climate, the expectations, the parent community engagement, those kinds of fundamental factors that are what really pretty much accounts for and characterizes good schools and accomplishing schools. Would you support having the government focus the schools on that and then have them report what they're doing to implement those characteristics, with the reporting being the principal form of accountability, along with test scores and stuff, so you'd see how the schools are doing?
I think the devil is in the details, and I think in principle we would agree with you that there are some parameters that need to be put in place as to what schools will be accountable for and what they will need to report. In general, we don't have very, very specific interventions that we think must be in the law, but we do believe there have to be parameters, and we do believe that every school needs to be held accountable, not just those in the bottom 5 or 10%.
A few of you did mention students with disabilities or with special needs in your presentations, but I just want to make a comment that students with disabilities exist in all the communities that have been mentioned today, and that on all the issues on data collection and desegregation and all the important issues addressed today, that there are needs of kids with disabilities in this, and that it's important to keep that in mind and keep that as part of what's being done here.
Schools and school districts were being held accountable for the academic progress of students with disabilities. And as a parent of a student with a disability, I'm familiar with what goes on in a school and a school system when you have that accountability as opposed to when you don't. Now, it doesn't mean they're going to do everything they're supposed to do under the law, but it does mean, and it has meant, that there has been a level of attention to the academic performance of students with disabilities that we had not previously seen. Now, having said that, there is a whole lot more work to do. And students who have disabilities who are also from low-income families, who are English learners, and who go to schools in concentrated poverty and segregated conditions have far worse outcomes than other student groups. And so when you take a combination of student characteristics like that, when I was at the Department of Education and we were looking at some small urban school districts, I won't mention which ones, that literally had high school graduation rates for their low-income and minority students with disabilities that were in the single digits, as in like 6%, less than 10%. So we absolutely need to continue an accountability focus that really holds these schools and districts accountable for doing something different and probably a whole lot more than they're currently doing. And back to the teacher issue, it is hugely important that teachers be trained and equipped to provide instruction to students with disabilities. And I'll tell you this from my own personal experience. Most parents don't want their children to be in self-contained segregated classrooms. And most children aren't in self-contained segregated classrooms. And so your quote-unquote regular classroom teachers need to be equipped to instruct all children and meet the needs of all children, whether it's in their 504 or their IEPs, and make sure that the curriculum is accessible. Now, this is one of the exciting things about the use of technology, but a lot of times we're looking at assistive technology for students who actually need to have technology in order to hear or see, but we're not talking about adapting technology or how schools should use technology to assist students who have learning differences. And so this is just one area that I feel passionately about, but that I think this law and education policy is not paid nearly enough attention to.